Good morning, divine creations, divine marvels, sons and daughters of God, Son of God. Hi. So, on the one hand, this topic of the ego and the devil feels so heavy, and on the other hand, it feels so light. And so, I really came to understand the the magnitude, the viciousness of the of what Jesus is talking about in A Course in Miracles by stepping away from the course for a while. And I actually studied the teachings of this very, very Christ-like being named Bruno Gruning, and he used the word the devil and Satan and evil. Um, and I was like, why doesn't he use the word ego? I studied the course. I've studied other Buddhism, Hinduism. Where this term ego is very common, or very similar. I was like, this is like this guy Bruno Gruning. He's like the one of the purest, most awake beings I've ever encountered. Why does he use words like Satan and the devil? And so I initially just kind of dismissed that part of his teaching, and then I really started to get it. And then I really started to get what the Course means by ego. So, we have a little bit of a disadvantage, in the East, in cultures that have sort of Hinduism or Buddhism, there's this understanding that ego is actually that which separates us from God, that it's an illusion. So they have a little bit of an advantage on us Westerners when studying the Course, because in the West, ego means you know, um, like if someone says something to me and I'm like, well, da 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 da, like that's what we think of as ego. Like someone puffing themselves up, like just kind of like exaggerated something. Like it's not a big deal, right? In the West, the word ego is kind of like, it's kind of like a personality defect. Like, oh, they've got a little too much ego, or their ego's too big. Whereas in the East, there's this, in some, in some countries or in Eastern philosophy, there's this recognition that ego is the source of all our suffering, and ego is an illusion, and ego does. So, um, and so it was studying, this guy Bruno Gruning's teachings about Satan and about the devil, and um, it really became clear to me that, you know, if we want to understand the ego, all we need to do is take the Christian idea of the devil, that which delights in suffering, that which viciously and maliciously and sneakily tries to steal souls from God and bind them to misery forever. We just take, in Christianity, it's like there's a being, the devil, like the devil is a person. So all we need to do to understand the Course's, what the Course means by ego is take the traditional Christian idea of um, of the devil, of Satan, as this person, and just take away the idea that Satan is a person, and you know take on the idea that Satan is a thought system, is a false self, and then we'll understand what Jesus means by ego. Because ego, in terms of how Jesus talks about it in the Course, you know, it's hard for us to really fathom the sheer evilness, the sheer viciousness. I don't mean evil in a judgmental sense of the word. I mean evil in like how much evil, how much suffering and pain it causes. Because, you know, the ego delights, like turn on the news and every ounce of suffering that occurs, the ego delights in. Not only did it cause it, it celebrates it. And this really came home to me when, I remembered that the Course says that the ego celebrates the crucifixion of the Son of God daily, like bathes in the blood. Like the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, like for the ego, that's a party. That's like the best party ever. Like that's like the ego's dream come true. Think about that. And so the ego is the cause of rape, of murder, of the sexual molestation of children. Like ego is a it's not a little thing. Now, ultimately, it's unreal, and if we jump right to, oh, the ego is unreal, I don't have to worry about it, then we're kind of missing the point. Um, then we're basically just intellectualizing the teaching. Now, it's one thing to have an experience of God, an experience of union, and then look at the ego and laugh and be like, oh, it's unreal. But if we just are like, oh, the ego is unreal, so I don't have to worry about it. Not that worry is really the solution, but I hope the energy of what I'm saying, of this, we need to take the ego very seriously, not with tension, but until we've had that experience, and until that's sort of our moment by moment lived revelation, which it isn't for me. I've certainly had those moments of real revelation, of real union, of real. Um, and from those places, the ego is a fucking joke. And if we don't live in that state permanently, which I sure don't, and I haven't met very many people that do, um, then to just be like, oh, yeah, the ego's unreal. Yeah, but what's the lived experience? Because until we're completely free of the ego, like until salvation, like until complete salvation from the ego, inside of us is the very force that not only um, like drove the nails into the body of Jesus Christ, but also celebrated it. And so, it's not going to show up that way for everyone. It's not like people are going around like, oh, where's Jesus Christ so I can crucify him? It's more like, um, the ego just walks around judging everyone and everything. It's like little mini crucifixions. Like, yeah, I was out for a walk this morning and I walked past, some people having this little outdoor coffee place. And it's like, oh, people are drinking coffee. That's unhealthy. They shouldn't be doing that. Da 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 da. So it starts off small and then it avalanches. And so that's literally a little mini crucifixion. That's literally an attack. Because ultimately the crucifixion was, maybe is the ego at its worst. But what I did to those people who were sitting drinking coffee, much less to the people who owned the coffee stand, much less to all the coffee drinkers of the world, it was an attack. It's a straight up attack. It's declaring war. So we don't have to freak out about the ego. The ego loves it when we freak out about it. But we also don't want to dismiss it. I don't want to dismiss it. It's this course seems to me it's really about discernment, and it's very easy to get caught up in the mind to intellectualize as opposed to living the teachings. So I wish you a Satan-free day. I wish you freedom from a day of wishing to crucify your brother and your sisters. Because that's all the ego wants. Not just to crucify, but to bind. The ego wants to bind everyone and everything into suffering forever. So I wish you a day free of being ruled by that. And all this would seem like a very daunting task. And on a certain level it is, but it really isn't. Because we have very clear instructions from a being, from Jesus Christ, who completely, and according to the Course, that's really, it doesn't put down other teachers, but it does say that that's really the difference between Jesus Christ and all the other teachers out there, where it says he was the first to fully awaken from the ego stream of death. And so we're very lucky. We have instructions, very clear instructions from him on what to do. To not have a day ruled, to not literally become servants of the devil. Because that's what happens when we say yes to crazy thoughts. We behave in crazy ways and we feel crazy. Thanks so much for listening. Hope this was helpful. Comments, feedback, questions are helpful.